Hello students, I welcome you to yet another intriguing class in government. In today's lesson, I will be teaching you the topic Lyttleton Constitution of 1954. Previously, we looked at the Maffasen Constitution of 1951, but in this class, we shall be looking at Lyttleton Constitution of 1954. First, let's look at the lesson objectives. By the end of this class, you should be able to discuss the origin of Lyttleton Constitution, explain the features of Lyttleton Constitution, discuss the achievements of Lyttleton Constitution, and lastly, you should be able to tell us the demerits of Lyttleton Constitution of 1954. Now, let's look at what led to the Lyttleton Constitution. Of course, Lyttleton Constitution came up as a result of the revision of the Maffasen Constitution of 1951. And this was after the 1953 Northern and 1954 Lagos Constitutional Conferences. And it was the recommendations that came out from these conferences that bettered the Lyttleton Constitution. Now let's look at the features of Lyttleton Constitution. Of course, just as we have said, that Maffasen Constitution was revised through these constitutional conferences. That is the 1953 Northern Constitutional Conference and the Lagos 1954 Constitutional Conference. Now, what are the various features of the Lyttleton Constitution? Now, let's look at the central legislature. It was known as the House of Representatives, just only one chamber, unicameralism. So, membership was 188, one speaker as the president of the House, and 3 ex-official members that were Europeans. 84 were elected, 92 from North, 42 each from East and West, 6 from Southern Cameroon and 2 from Lagos. Also, it gave room for a federal system. This constitution introduced a federal system of government into Nigeria. When we say federal system, it's a system of government where power is shared between the central government and other autonomous components. So this constitution gave rise to federal system of government. Again, most notably, the lieutenant governors in the regions became known as the governors. Of course, you remember that in Maffasen Constitution, at the regions, they were called lieutenant governors. Richer, they were called chief commissioners. But in Lyttleton, they were now known as the governors. And the governor of the country, that is at the center, became known as Governor General. For the first time in Clifford, at the center, it was Governor, Richard Governor, Maffasen Governor. But for Lyttleton, the one at the center became known as Governor General, while regions became known as governors instead of lieutenant governors, as we had it in Maffasen. Again, Lyttleton Constitution made provision for the post of a premier. The Constitution provided for the post of a premier as the leader of government in the regions. The leader of the political party with majority in regional assembly became the premier. For instance, Nnamdi Azikiwe was the premier of the East, Ahmadu Bello premier of the North, and Obafemi Awolowo was the premier of the West. The regional governors appointed ministers based on the advice of the premiers. Another feature was that there was no provision for the post of a prime minister at the center. So no provision was made for the post of prime minister as head of government in Nigeria. So there was no post of the prime minister until the independent constitution of 1960. Again, another important feature was that residual powers for the regional assembly, that is, the regional assembly performed residual powers, and this is the power to pass bills into laws without the approval from the central government. So they could pass their own bills into laws. I haven't looked at the residual powers for the regional assembly. Let's look at concurrent legislative lists. Items listed on the concurrent list, both the central and regional legislature were to legislate on them. So regional legislature could legislate on concurrent as well as the central. However, if there was a conflict in the performance of such functions, the central legislature would prevail. Also, let's look at another feature, and this is that the Governor General and regional governors retained the power to accept or reject bills. So, Governor General and regional governors were having such powers to either reject or accept bills. So, they can assent to bills or reject the bills. Again, we have the feature of Federal Capital Territory. Lagos was removed from the Western region and was made a Federal Capital Territory of the country, just as it was recommended in Lagos Constitutional Conference of 1953 and Northern Conference of 1954. Now, another feature is regionalization of civil service and judiciary. So this means that the regions now had its civil service and the judiciary. So they were having their own civil service, their own workforce, and also their own judiciary. Again, Lyttleton Constitution established the Supreme Court, even though the Supreme Court was not the highest court of the land. The Constitution established a federal Supreme Court for the country. Now that we have looked at the various features of the Lyttleton Constitution, let's consider the various achievements or merits of the Lyttleton Constitution, which include regionalization of civil service, just as we have said before, a federal system of government, establishment of Supreme Court, a federal capital territory, specific functions to be performed by the regions and central governments. Again, there is democratic principles. Apart from all this, we still have other merits like direct elections at the central, western, and eastern legislature. Though the north, it was indirect. Then it made provision for the office of a premier at the regions. Then office of the governor and governor generals were created. Regional head of government at the regions, that is the premier. Again, let's look at the various demerits. One of them include loyalty of ministers to their regional leaders. There was no provision for the office of a prime minister. No uniform electoral system. It gave veto and reserve powers to Governor General. It made no plan for independence for the country, and also it continued to maintain the three regional structures without creating new ones. In conclusion, the Lyttleton Constitution established Supreme Court. However, it was not the highest court in the country, and the Constitution has been criticized for not making plans for Nigeria's independence. This is all I have for you today. Until we meet in our next class, goodbye.